So list all of the things you do, including flight nursing, because it sounds like a lot.
Okay. So flight nursing is my full-time job. And then social media definitely takes up a lot of my time. It's not always a job for me. I obviously just love it and have a passion for it. And then I have a gift store and Airbnbs that I run also on the side.
Oh my gosh. And how much do you make as a flight nurse?
So I make about a year.
How many hours are you actually putting in per week?
I work usually 48 a week, sometimes 72, depending on my rotation.
Wait, a
But
week? That's a lot
yes.
of hours. What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel and our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. The best thing about being a nurse is the virtually unlimited number of career options that we have. It's a profession that allows us to do more things with our license than any other you could think of. And in this video, I'll be interviewing a flight nurse who works between 48 and 72 hours per week, is a content creator, owns a gift store, and manages 3 short-term rentals that she and her husband built from scratch. I have no idea how she finds the time in her week to do all of this, but we're going to find out, and she's going to tell us how much she earns from all of her income sources. Now, Shayla, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you currently do for a living.
Hi, I'm Shayla. I'm a flight nurse paramedic and I work EMS in a helicopter. I have been a nurse for 8 years and I've flown for 5 years. And prior to that, I worked in the emergency room and in the ICU.
Wow. Wait, so how long have you been a nurse altogether?
I've been a nurse for 8 years total.
Wow. And you got into flight nursing, what, you said 5 years after?
Correct. Yes, I was 24 when I started flying.
Jeez. And did you picture yourself doing flight nursing from the beginning?
Actually, I always did. I knew since high school that I wanted to be a flight nurse. Actually, I wanted to be a flight paramedic because EMS always excited me. But when I got into paramedic school, I had a lot of my mentors telling me I would make more money as a nurse. And so after getting my EMT and working as an EMT on an ambulance, I switched to nursing and got my nursing degree instead. And when I started as a flight nurse, I started out making $7 more an hour than my flight paramedic counterparts.
What? How does
Isn't that
that make any
crazy?
sense?
Yep, there's a huge discrepancy between paramedics and flight nurses, even though when we're in the air, we have the same exact scope of practice.
Do you have any family members that are nurses?
So when I started and went to school, I was the first person in my family to go to college, actually. I grew up in a very religious family where college was not encouraged. And I said, no, I'm gonna have a career and I want to help people. So I went to school for the first time. And after I went to school, my brother followed and became a paramedic himself. And now he teaches paramedic school.
That is so cool. So where
hmm
did you grow up?
I grew up in upstate New York, outside of
Mm.
Albany.
Wow. Yeah, I'm from New York, but I'm from New York City.
Oh, you are?
So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. For people that don't know the difference between Albany and New York City, it's like thinking like LA versus Sacramento. We're in Sacramento right now.
There you go.
But that's the difference. It's like the population density is much higher in New York City versus Albany.
Yeah, very much so.
So do you still live in Albany?
No, I actually live in Arkansas now. I've been in Arkansas for 8 years since I got my nursing license.
Wow. And why did you choose to move to Arkansas?
I got married and moved here.
Do you have any
Yeah.
kids?
I have no kids now.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So I want you to walk me through your path of what it took you to become a nurse, because you said you were a paramedic before you became a nurse. So walk me through that whole path of what steps you had to take to
Mhm.
get to where you are.
Sure. Yeah. So to become a flight nurse, you have to have a minimum of 3 years of experience in the ER or the ICU. And I knew that before I ever went and took my NCLEX and became a nurse. So I started as an EMT. I worked in an ambulance and I got EMS experience while I was going to nursing school. And then once I had my nursing license, I got right into an ICU and I did ICU for a year until I could bridge and work the ER, PRN also. And then I worked both of them so I could have both of those experiences for 3 years until I could get on as a flight nurse.
Geez, that's a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Out of all of the jobs you've had, which one would you say is the most stressful?
Oh, wow. I guess it totally depends because, like, working ICU, it's all hemodynamics. And then working ER, it's all emergency. And then working in flight, there could be a day where I don't do anything and I get to hang out at the base, or I could just fly like back to back to back to back calls. So I think it depends on like the acuity of the patient you have, no matter what part of nursing you're in. But I would say if I had to pick one, I would say flight nursing just because you never know what crazy, insane thing you're going to get.
Hmm. And what kind of experiences have you had as a flight nurse, like patient wise and scenario wise?
So we fly anything from you just got in a car accident on the freeway and we're going to land right on the highway and we're going to do trauma care and get you to a level 1 trauma center, to someone had a stroke at a super rural facility that doesn't have a neurosurgeon and we're going to go do like an inter-facility transfer where we pick that patient up and fly them to a neurosurgeon. So we see a lot of trauma and we see a lot of really sick like medical patients like DKA, strokes, heart attacks. So we really never know what we're going to get. But I will say about like what makes it so stressful is that this is the only sector of nursing where you have this much autonomy where I don't have to ask permission to do something. So just like a paramedic has standing orders that he can give medications or intubate a patient, the flight nurse can also do the same thing. So I make the decision to give a drug. I make the decision to put a chest tube in or intubate a patient. So there's a lot more responsibility on the flight side of things where you don't have a doctor telling you what to do. And if that patient lives or dies, is truly on you and your partner.
Interesting. So what kind of qualifications are they looking at when they're looking to hire a flight nurse?
So other than 3 to 5 years of experience, which you pretty much have to have no matter where you are in the country, it's encouraged to have your CFRN, which is your Certified Flight Registered Nurse licensure. And they like to see nurses that get their CEN or their CCRN. So they know that like you take your education seriously, you have your advanced certifications. You have to have a trauma certificate like TNCC for nurses, a neonatal resuscitation because you could fly kids or adults depending on where you work, and all of your AHA certifications, so your ACLS, your BLS, your PALS.
That sounds like a lot of certifications you have to renew on a frequent basis.
It is, yeah. I actually just had to redo all of mine at one time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it gets expensive, yeah.
So do you work for a hospital or is it like a third-party company?
Yeah, I work for a private EMS. So they're privately owned and they're run by Metro Aviation. So they have a aviation service that keeps their helicopters and pilots staffed, but it's not associated with any hospital. So we're not affiliated or funded or sponsored by any sort of hospital. It's a private EMS service.
I see. And you fly these patients to different facilities based on their chief complaint, right? Or the issue that they're dealing with. Because if it's a trauma patient and you don't have a trauma facility nearby, you might have to fly a little bit farther to get to one, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we land on a scene call, then myself and the paramedic, which I'm also a paramedic, so I could fly with a paramedic or a nurse depending on what shift it is. But my partner and I will look at what the patient's chief issue is, and then we'll pick what hospital we think is most appropriate. But if they're coming out of a hospital where a doctor's already seen them and they're going to another one, then that's already predetermined and we can't change that because a doctor has to accept them if they're already at a facility.
And have you guys ever run into any issues with the aircraft while in flight?
I personally have never had to like have a auto rotation or emergency landing, but I do know people and have had crew members who have had issues like engine failures, or you encounter weather where you can't see and you have to do an emergency landing. But we try and mitigate a lot of the safety stuff on the front end of things so that we don't run into those unpredictable circumstances. Like,
were there ever any like major issues you ran into while treating a patient?
Do you mean like in terms of like a presentation that stumped me, or I felt like I didn't have the tool I need, or?
Yeah. Something where you felt like it was a really challenging situation for you.
Gosh, I've had a lot of challenging situations, but I truly feel like when you get to the flight nurse level, you're expected to be so comfortable with every tool that you have that, in my opinion, if I'm not comfortable with my tools and there's no situation I shouldn't be able to troubleshoot, and then if I don't have the tool they need, then I know there's nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
I hope if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. Are you ever able to refer to a doctor whenever you feel like you're stumped?
I could, if I wanted to, I could call my medical director. But at the same time, our medical director has very high standards for us to be like intimately familiar with every medication and every intervention, and kind of takes the perspective that like you should be able to troubleshoot whatever you have because I give you full freedom to use these tools as you see fit. So if I were to call him, it would be like a very extenuating circumstance. Like, for example, we had a paramedic who responded to somebody trapped in farming equipment and they could not extract him in time to save him and basically had to ask permission for a field amputation. That would be a situation where I need to get permission first and get the medical director's approval. But in general, we have the freedom to kind of do what we think we need to do to make sure we can try and help that patient.
How do you safely perform a field amputation?
Well, first of all, you have to have the proper tools to do it. And that just kind of depends on your program and what you actually carry. But you just try and make it as sterile and painless as possible for the patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. That sounds so unsterile.
Yeah. Well, it's like possibility of bacteria, or you
Yeah,
could die right
or
here
that.
in the equipment.
Very
Yeah.
true.
So a lot of what we do is like putting a chest tube in an airport tarmac. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know this is not the most sterile procedure, but
Mhm.
if I don't do this now, like you could potentially die. So you have to like do it, give some antibiotics, and then, hope that they make it through surgery and then they can deal with whatever infection may come
Yeah.
after that. Yeah.
Wow. So how was it work during COVID? Did anything change at all?
I think their volume definitely changed. Like for us, I can only fly one patient at a time. So for me, I know like no matter how bad it is for the nurses in the hospital, I can only put one in my aircraft at a time.
Yeah.
So our flight volume definitely went up. We definitely flew more COVID patients and we had to change a lot of our like procedures. That I don't think I saw the same amount of stress as nurses at all that were actually in the trenches in the hospital.
And how much do you make as a flight nurse?
So I make about 130 a year.
Oh, that's pretty good. In Arkansas, girl?
It will go up or down depending on kind of what company you work for
Yeah.
and like how much they allow overtime for. So
Wow.
I would say if I had to put an hourly on it in Arkansas, you'll probably make between $30 to $40 an hour, depending on
Wow.
what service you fly for.
So how many hours are you actually putting in per week?
I work usually 48 a week, sometimes 72, depending on my rotation.
Wait, a
But
week? That's a lot
yes.
of hours.
It is, yeah. We run like a 40-96 rotation. I actually don't love it personally. I'm not a huge fan of 48-hour shifts because I'm a big safety advocate, and I think that you can feel pressure to fly when you're tired because you don't want to let people down.
Mm.
So I don't necessarily love that. I do love my program in the sense that I love the medical freedom they give me and the autonomy, but I definitely think that's something you need to consider as far as like safety wise when you're looking at flight nursing is what kind of shifts they offer, because most services in the country will do 12 to 24-hour shifts. And that really is a lot safer.
I see. But it seems like you're working paramedic hours and not nurse hours.
100%. Yeah, it's
Right?
EMS. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely EMS. Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. So do you plan to continue doing this until you retire?
That is a question I've actually asked myself. It's interesting because when I was in high school, I knew that I wanted to fly. It was like my dream job, and everything I did for the 7 years or so leading up to me getting the job, I was like, this is my like top goal. And to reach your like dream job at 24 is kind of surreal because you're like, okay, everyone keeps asking me what's next, and I
Mhm.
haven't even gotten to do my dream job. Are you going to go to CRNA school? Are you going to go to become a nurse practitioner? And I'm like, no, I just want to sit and enjoy this for a minute. Like, this is my dream. And so I've done it for 5 years. Like, I absolutely love it. But now that I've dabbled more in the education side of things, I've found that I really do have a passion, like, for helping to teach other nurses and medics,
Mhm.
how to transition and how to, just really become good at your craft too. So I could see myself in a position where I fly part time and maybe do education part time.
And what do you mean by education? What kind of things are you teaching?
So one thing that I teach a lot is basically like how to transition. Like if you're a ground or nurse paramedic and you're not sure where to start, I offer a course that helps nurses know exactly like what certifications they need, what to look for safety wise in a company, what to expect on orientation. And then I teach other things like pharmacology and trauma. And, nurses aren't used to giving a report, they're used to getting it. So I give a class on how do you actually give trauma report. And so I bundled that all up into a course that I offer for medics and nurses so they can help just feel more prepared. Because I know when I was in high school, I didn't have a mentor right away that was like, no, these are the exact steps you need to take if you want to fly. And it was kind of a guessing game for me. So I wanted to help others not feel like it's such a far off goal for them. But I also just enjoy teaching in general, like teaching medical courses, teaching basically any kind of like trauma, airway, stuff like that. I enjoy helping people have that aha moment of like, oh, I didn't know that, and just like learn one thing new.
Yeah. And how are these people reaching you? Is it like a website where you host the course on?
Yeah, so I have a TikTok platform where I post a lot of just like free education and fun learning things about helicopter EMS. And then I offer a course that's like linked in a membership that you can sign up for, and then you have access to it for a year once you're inside the portal. And you can just do it at your own pace online.
Oh, how do you even find the time to do all of that when you're working 48 to 72 hours as a flight nurse?
Yeah. Well, the good news is if I work 2 days a week, then I have, the whole rest of the week off that I can kind of utilize for my own time, which makes it nice. So you get all of your shift work done immediately, in one fell swoop. And then you kind of have the rest of the week that you can do other fun stuff like this.
So list all of the things you do, including flight nursing, because it sounds like a lot.
Okay. So flight nursing is my full-time job. And then social media definitely takes up a lot of my time. It's not always a job for me. I obviously just love it and have a passion for it. And then I have a gift store and Airbnbs that I run also on the side.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So you have a gift store. What is this gift store for?
So it's a gift store it sits outside of a state park here in Arkansas. And so we sell like giftable items for like people that come to travel and want to take home like memorabilia. And we sell clothing and like skincare and stuffed
Wait,
animals, just a get like general gift store.
so it's a physical location?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Okay. How did you get that started?
Oh, so actually, the year I became a flight nurse, I opened my first gift store in the town I lived in. I thought it would be so fun to like have my own business and have a store and get to order things for it. And so I had my first gift store then, and then I sold that one and moved and decided to open up this one because it was in a tourist location. So
Mm.
I knew it would have more traffic and kind of change the location up. So that's how I got into doing that.
And who manages it? You or somebody else?
Yeah, somebody else. Yeah. I
Oh,
kind of oversee it, but I have other people that kind of do the day-to-day stuff.
is it generating decent amount of income?
The store does okay, but the Airbnbs really are what do better. Because Arkansas is so rural that there's not like a lot, unless you're like in a big city, most of like tourist income is dependent on an attraction. So like the state park gets a lot of visitors to come to the Airbnb. And it kind of acts as like a front for people who want to inquire about our rentals.
Wow. And so both of your Airbnbs are located in Arkansas?
Yes, yeah.
Interesting. How long ago did you purchase?
So I actually built them from the ground up. So I
Oh my
designed
gosh.
I designed them. They're really cool, like A-frames, like they're huge, like
Yeah.
really tall A-frames, and they sit overlooking the mountain view. And so we put the gift store at the front, and then we put the three Airbnbs on the back, and they sit like overlooking the mountain. So you just drive behind the store, and you're at your cabin. It has like a hot tub.
Mm.
They all have their own little decks where you can sit and look at like the view, overlooking the mountain. And the store kind of acts as like a lot of people will come in and ask about the rentals, and so then we'll have them drive back and they can go look at them. But yeah, so we
That's,
decided to build them. Yeah.
that's a really smart marketing
Mhm.
scheme you built up right there. Have the
Yes. Yeah.
storefront. Tourists will come and visit and ask for a
Mhm.
place to stay, and you'll give them a recommendation
Yeah.
to stay
Oh,
in
I
your
have the perfect
Airbnb.
one. It's right back here.
That's
Exactly.
really smart. So, do
Yes.
you get a lot of
Yep.
your customers from that store that stay at your
Hmm.
Airbnb?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's really
Definitely.
smart.
Yeah.
And how did you build it? Did you have any assistance from any family members or friends? Did you have to hire out the help?
So I've been doing long-term rentals for a while, and I had done a few like spec house designs. So I've gotten pretty comfortable like just with design and what I felt like worked in this area. And so essentially I just drew it up like how I wanted it and had somebody make a blueprint of it. And that's what we used. My husband's a contractor, and so he was able to oversee the contracting, which made it pretty seamless.
Yeah. Geez.
Mhm.
So do you generate more income from your Airbnbs than you do from your nursing job?
Um, that's hard to say
Mm.
because at this point we are paying off the just let that build, and so like it's eventually it'll be like an early retirement.
That's
But
pretty smart.
I think eventually it might. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you plan to build more Airbnbs besides these two that you already have?
Yes, yeah, we have three, but yeah, we do plan to build
Oh,
more on this
3.
property actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, oh yeah. So you said you have 3 A-frame houses, correct?
Yeah. We want to do
Oh,
like like the mini houses where like one
yeah.
bedroom, one bath, and maybe do like a fun theme that makes people want to stay. That's one thing I found is like when people come to an area that they don't know there's a lot to do, they will often pick an Airbnb that either looks very comfortable or has like a
Mhm.
fun theme that attracts them to the area. And so I think it would be fun to do like different themes.
That's so true. Yeah,
Hmm.
I remember when Monica, my wife, and we went to Colorado and we went snowboarding and we were just looking at unique places to stay at. And we ended up staying in this tiny home that was like maybe, I don't know, 10 feet by like 15 feet. It was really small, but
Oh,
one of the
that's so
cutest
little, yeah.
places. Yeah, really small, but one of the cutest places we've stayed at. And it was, I mean, the price was relatively cheap, obviously, compared to everywhere else that we
Mm-hmm.
were looking at. But just the experience that we had from it was just very memorable for us. And that's every time we go and stay at an Airbnb, the one thing that we're always looking for is a unique place to stay at.
For me, I type in hot tub and then I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, that's the one I want.
that's so funny. So, how long have you had them for now? Like at this point, the Airbnbs?
I think we're going on 2 years that we've had them.
So this is
Yeah.
recent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was new. We essentially sold all of our other investments to do this one because this was a huge one.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the nurses that I've interviewed previously have said that they've had to either work a lot of hours and
Hmm.
save a lot of money to invest in the business that they want to grow, or they've had to cash out on like 401ks or money
Mm.
from their brokerage accounts or an emergency fund that they had so they can invest it in a business that they want. But all of these nurses that I've interviewed who have done that did it successfully. And many of them are making tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars
Wow.
per month. Right. Yeah. So
That's
sometimes you got to be
amazing.
willing to take a big risk financially in order to make more money. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I think what scares people is that when you don't have a nest egg to pull from to make that initial investment, sometimes you just have to get a loan. And it's
Yeah.
scary because you think you're taking on more debt, but that loan could be the link between you starting that investment rolling where now you have collateral that you can borrow against. And then you'll watch your real estate business grow and grow and grow. But it starts with, having good credit, saving up enough to put that initial percentage down. And then once you can get your first loan and the bank sees that, like, okay, this is a good investment, it's making money, then that's what starts you being able to get those bigger and bigger.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
So you have these three Airbnbs, you have the gift shop, you have your nursing job. What else are you doing?
So that's like on the business side, which I love.
Yeah.
It keeps me
Yeah.
busy and that's something I enjoy to do. So that's like, those are my primary like business or like things I do to make money. But I do enjoy downtime also. Like I'm a very outdoorsy person. I love
Okay.
to fish and snowboard. And so I'm a big believer in like a balance of work and play. Especially like
Mm.
I don't want to work so hard when I'm young that when I'm older I can't enjoy fun also. So I try and have a good balance.
Wait, so where do you go snowboarding? You live in Arkansas.
I know, right? It's terrible. I'll go like out to Colorado and go snowboarding.
Oh, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Monica, my wife, and I, we have Epic passes. So every year we go off to
Oh,
Whistler. And also, since we live in Sacramento, we're only like maybe 2 hours away from Lake Tahoe, where they have lots of snowboarding there. So every
that's
year we're
amazing.
snowboarding. We go at least like 20 times a year. But yeah, we're leaving in a few days to go snowboarding at Whistler for a week. And I don't know if
Oh,
you've
that's
ever
so
been.
exciting. I'm
Have you ever
not.
been
I
to
would
Whistler? Oh,
no, I
my
would love to. I'll have to put it
God.
on my list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to. Have you ever been
Mhm.
to Jackson Hole?
I have, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
what do you think about Jackson Hole? I've never been there before.
Okay, so to be fair, I went not during the winter, so I didn't actually get
Oh,
to ski there. I've skied in probably 5 to 6 different resorts in Colorado, primarily.
cool.
But I would like to go back and actually get to ski there. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. What's your favorite one in Colorado?
Well, that's a good question. I think Steamboat is my favorite
Oh,
because
yeah.
have you heard of Steamboat before?
I've heard of it. Everybody keeps talking about it. I've never been there
It's
because it's not part of the
it's
Epic Pass,
I know. It's a
list of
little bit
resorts.
It's a little bit of a drive, or you have to fly into this little airport. It's not like near like Breckenville. It's kind of off the beaten
Yeah,
path, but it's like this cute little hallmark town. And it has
yeah.
really good restaurants, and then they have what's called Strawberry Park, which are hot springs, and you can get
Oh,
in them in the winter. So like the snow will be coming down, you're sitting in the
yeah.
hot springs and the
Oh, that's
rocks, and
so
yeah, that's
cool.
my favorite thing. Go snowboarding and then go get in the hot water and
Oh, I
relax.
love
Like
that.
it's perfect. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, we
Hmm.
need to go there for sure.
Yeah,
And
definitely check it out.
do you have like a multi ski resort pass or just you'll purchase a ticket for like a week when you go to Steamboat?
Yeah, that's usually what I do. I just purchase it when I'm out there.
I
Yeah.
see. And you
I
don't have
did
any
grow
kids?
up No, no, I don't have any kids, no.
Oh
But
man.
I grew up my first job ever was
Yeah.
working at a ski resort when I was 14, and I did that
What?
till I was 18. So you would get the free pass, so I would go work and then I would go ski for free like every day.
Yeah. And that was
Yeah.
when you were in Albany, correct?
Yeah, in New York, yeah.
So
Mhm.
what ski resort did you work in?
Jiminy Peak? Have you ever
Oh,
heard
I've
of it?
heard of Jiminy Peak. I've never been
Yep.
there before.
Yeah, it's
But,
actually Massachusetts, but yeah. Yep.
oh, yeah, so I have family members who have gone there before, but I've
That's
never
so
been
funny.
there before.
Small
Yeah.
world, you know? It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
just
I know.
small.
Yeah, but, I've been to Hunter Mountain, like, long,
Oh, yeah, I've
long
been there.
ago.
I've
Oh,
been to
okay.
Hunter. Yep.
Have you been to Killington?
Oh, yeah, Killington is my favorite one to go to when
That's
I
my
go home.
favorite too. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
it's
Up in
huge.
Vermont, yeah. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever been to like the West Coast. Like you've been to Colorado. I don't know if you've been to like Utah and then
Mhm.
California, where we have like Squaw, we have North Star, we have Heavenly, we have Kirkwood, and then all the
Mm.
way up north. Like just work your way up north from there. But we have really like soft, light, powdery snow, and it's like my favorite out here.
That's amazing. Well, growing up like on the East Coast, like the joke is like we ski on ice out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So like going and even skiing in Colorado, I was like, this is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I'll
very
have to make
true.
it out there. I'll have to make it out
Yeah,
to Colorado. I mean, California. That'd be awesome.
yeah. That's part of the reason why we chose to move out here is because we wanted to be closer to the mountains so we can go snowboarding every winter. Because when we were in New York, when we would go snowboarding, it's just like you said, people call it the ice coast because
Yeah.
it's so icy out there.
Yeah,
It is not
exactly.
fun. But we had to get adjusted to like the powdery snow because we were so used to like snowboarding on ice that when we came over here, we just kept
It's so
tripping and
different.
falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do I do with all this
Yeah.
snow? Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so you okay, you said you have your gift shop, you have your nursing business, you
Mhm.
have the Airbnbs, the 3 Airbnbs, and you
Mhm.
do a lot of adventurous things on the side. But you also said you have this teaching class or the course that you sell. How did you come up with this course?
So what really started it is I had people reaching out on TikTok constantly like, "Can you help me? Can you give me advice? Do you know a course that I can take?" And I'm like, "Well, I know prep courses for that prepare you to like take your CFRN test, but I don't know of a course that's like, hey, I'm just going to break this all down for you how I know it so that it's easier for you than guessing." And I was like,
Mhm.
why don't I make it? Like, I enjoy teaching, and I have some close friends in the EMS education business who are very kind to me, who kind of gave me some pointers on how to create like engaging education that's not like, here's a PowerPoint. And so I definitely reached out to them. They gave me some tips on like how to make just engaging content that people will enjoy watching. And so I kind of ran with that. And then I spent a few months just like with me and my office and my setup and just like recording myself, trying to get comfortable talking to the camera. And then you have to take the time to edit it. But that was kind of what inspired me, was just like reaching out to other people and thinking, well, I can make this course. If I'm going to be making content on TikTok that's educational, there's no reason I can't just make longer content.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
very true. And how long ago did you start creating the course?
I think the course has been live for maybe about 6 months.
Wow. So I'm surprised you didn't feel comfortable talking to the camera when that's what you were doing with TikTok to begin with.
Well, it's a little bit different when you are not just like doing a 30-second or minute like
Yeah.
educational thing. It's like, let me keep your attention for an hour and let me make sure that like it's is edited semi decent so that you don't feel like you're just sitting in a class that you want to click through.
No, I
Yeah.
totally agree because when I make these shorts and these reels and these TikTok videos, it takes me maybe an hour at most to record myself, probably like 20, 30 minutes to record myself for what I have to finally edit. And then when I do edit it, it only takes me another 30 minutes or so, maybe an
Hmm.
hour. But when I do these long form videos on YouTube, oh my gosh, I remember. So I have
It's
a video editor now, but it used to take me anywhere from like 26 to 32 hours to edit one video. And maybe, and also actually that includes like the planning phase, what it is that I'm going to be talking about in the video, the
hmm
research that goes behind it, and maybe some like collection of information that I have to do in the process before I even film the video. And then I have to like set up my everything in my studio, start talking to the camera, record everything, and then I have to
yeah.
go and edit it and find different like B-roll and clips to include in the video, and the graphics that you have to do, the sound effects, the music, all of that. And then after you edit the video, then you have to edit the thumbnail for the video.
That's
And
right.
and
The
that can
thumbnail is
take
important. The thumbnail
yes.
is so. Man, you just
Yes.
made me think of a couple questions I would love to ask you because you obviously have a lot of experience. For one, I went through some of your YouTube videos and your editing looks amazing. So your
Oh,
video editor, you and your video editor have done really
yeah.
great. How do you feel like creating content is different when you're doing YouTube versus like TikTok? Do you find that
Oh,
it's like what do you think is the biggest difference on breaking out in YouTube versus breaking out on TikTok?
okay, I'll put it like this. So if I were to give TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels my undivided attention, I would probably have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers at this point. Because, right now or before this past week or 2 weeks ago, all I did was just repurpose my podcasts and I would use them as like short form videos and put them on TikTok and all those platforms. And I'd get, every now and then I get maybe like 10,000 or 15,000 views or 20,000 at most, maybe 30,000. But when I actually take the time and effort to make a video that's really specifically a short form video, they oftentimes will get at least 100,000 views. And this one video that we posted just 5, 6 days ago, me and my wife, we filmed it together, has already like 2.2 million views on TikTok
Wow.
and like 600,000 on Facebook, 500, maybe 600,000 on Instagram as well.
Hmm.
So I feel like, honestly, I feel like it's so much easier to grow as a short form creator than it is to grow as a long form creator. And then you can see it
I
probably
think
because
you're right.
you might
Hmm.
know people who have this platform on Instagram or on TikTok and they're trying to branch out to YouTube and they just can't figure it out. It's
Yeah.
a lot harder than than they thought it
Yeah,
would
there's
be.
such different niches.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you make a really good point about like making TikTok specific content. It's like
Mhm.
TikTok watchers know like
Yeah.
if it was made for them or if it
Yeah.
was like repurposed.
Exactly.
And I
Yes.
think like on TikTok, there's something that catches people. Like obviously you have to have a hook, but people love like being informal. It
Yeah.
goes really, really well, I think, on the short form aspect versus like creating content that engages people for an hour.
Yeah.
So it's true.
Exactly.
The other question I had for you, which I think is so interesting, is you talked about finding B-roll footage
Yeah.
for your YouTubes. And
Yeah.
obviously you're on the medical side of things. How hard
Mhm.
is it to find usable or unlicensed or not copyrighted content for your B-roll footage?
Well, there's websites out there like
Hmm.
storyblocks.com, and there's another one that I use, Envato Elements. So
Okay.
those are the two main websites that I use. There's also free ones because those are paid subscription websites, and they have a
Yeah.
lot of B-roll, like photos and videos that you can use of
Mhm.
people playing the role of a medical,
Yeah.
like a doctor, a physician, or a
Hmm.
nurse. So I use those, but they can get kind of old, and people might get used to seeing the
Or
same
you'll
type
see
of
the same
B-rolls.
ones on different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's
what
interesting.
I'm actually trying to do more of now, especially when I'm filming podcast videos, it's easier for me to say, "Hey, if you have any videos, send them to me or send me the links so I can include them in the podcast." And then when we're
Okay.
talking, then I can just have those play as B-roll while we're talking. But now what I'm also doing, and I'm editing this video that my wife and I filmed while we were on vacation in New York, is we're filming a video to show how we started our lives in the US because we weren't born here. I was born in the Dominican Republic and my
Oh,
wife was born
okay.
in the Philippines.
Wow.
So the goal of the video is to show how we started here in the US and how we reached the point to where we are now. So because I grew up in the projects, I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like public housing
Hmm.
where there's a lot of violence, gang activity and all that stuff. And now my wife are at a point where like we're financially, almost financially independent. And we have a house that we have a mortgage on, but we don't have any other debt other than our house. And it took us a while to get here. Like we had a lot of struggles along the way. So I kind of want to walk people through that journey. And in order to get the B roll, we actually went to New York on a vacation because it was like the holidays. We went there for Thanksgiving. And while we were there, we spent like 3 or 4 days just recording videos of like the public housing development that I grew up in, the projects. And
Oh.
we recorded videos of our neighborhoods. And I recorded a lot of that. And then we came back over here to Sacramento, where we currently live, and we drove around the neighborhood and we recorded some of the things that are in our area. And that's what I'm going to include in this video. So
So
I'm
it's so
trying to
it's so
do,
authentic. It's
yeah,
perfect.
but it's a lot
Yeah,
of work, right?
it
Like
is. Yeah, for sure.
I could have just done a TikTok video and maybe spent like 15, 20 minutes doing that.
It's, you know what I
You
think
know?
is really neat though is
Yeah.
like you are putting all that work into it, but you are leaving a digital footprint
Mm,
forever. So like you
yeah.
are leaving something that it means a lot to you and it will always exist. Like that's your footprint to leave
Yeah.
like for the
Uh,
next person, which is
That's
cool.
true. Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever gone back to your old videos on TikTok or whenever, wherever, whatever platform, and you're like, what the heck was I doing?
Well, you know, it's funny because
Yeah.
TikTok now does this on this day recap.
Mm.
And
Oh,
so I started TikTok in 2020. And so
mm.
it'll be like, on this day in 2020, you posted this, and I'll go back and watch it and be like, it's so funny to see what was trending then and what got
Yeah.
views and how it has changed like in
Mm.
just 3 years. How if I posted that now, people might be like, oh, that's that's icky. You know,
Yeah.
just different things are funny now, just 3 years
Yeah.
later.
For sure. And I remember like when I first started recording videos for YouTube, I was so nervous. I could just talking to myself in front of the camera. I'm like, I'm a different person. And you know, when you first
Hmm.
start out on social media, you speak in a way that you don't want to be judged. Right. But
Yeah.
over time, you start getting comfortable in your own element and you
Hmm.
start, your real self starts coming out on camera. And that's when you
Yeah.
become more authentic and people realize that, and you begin to get more followers that way, honestly.
Yeah.
So that's what has been happening over the years, and now I'm
Hmm.
so comfortable. I have like live streams on my YouTube channel that happen like every Wednesday or so,
Oh,
and
awesome.
I'm just like super comfortable. I talk to the camera now and my viewers just like I'm talking to a friend who's right in front of me. So
I
I'm
love
really
that.
comfortable talking to the camera now. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that you're gonna get judged. Somebody
Yeah.
somewhere is gonna
Yeah.
no matter how authentic, even if you're right,
Yeah.
someone's still gonna judge you.
Yeah.
But and it's hard to like when you're in the medical profession, like you, as much as I might be just representing myself, I'm always still like to a point representing myself as a nurse or you know in that aspect. So
Mm.
I think there's a like a little bit of okay, let me just make sure I don't do anything wrong because you know I don't want to come across as like not trustworthy or do something that makes my
Yeah.
job upset.
Yeah, which is pretty. I think it's pretty sad that we have to think that way because you know my channel it talks about the financial side of nursing, which is something that like it's very frowned upon in the nursing profession, right?
Hmm.
So I felt like I had to be very careful along the way in what I said and how I said it because especially if you think about like the old school nurses, they don't want you to talk about salaries because they
Mm-mm.
want us to just focus on patient care. But the reason why I made this channel is because I felt like nurses don't across the country, they don't get paid well enough for the work that they do. That's just it's honestly it's just like a fact. Like you have to we're overworked, we're underpaid, we're working under conditions where it might not be safe for us or the patients. And I feel like if we at least know that we have a voice in how we're treated and how we're paid, then not only does it benefit us, but it also benefits the patients,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Like imagine if you're coming to work and you're getting paid, let's say $15 per hour to do the job that you do. You may love your patients, but you're not going to love your job that much longer,
No, yeah. You gotta be,
right?
and you don't want to feel like I'm just going to work in order to survive. Like
Exactly.
that's not funny. Nobody thrives in that. And
Exactly.
it's like it's interesting because like I feel like in the state I work in, we are definitely behind in pay in EMS and in nursing, and so I notice myself being more hesitant to talk about pay because it's almost like I'm embarrassed, a little bit embarrassed. And then like you'll compare it to somewhere maybe like California or Minnesota where flight nurses make $10 to $20 more an hour than I make in Arkansas. And there is, you know, of course, like the cost of living. Like you do have to realize like that's different in different areas, but I sometimes feel, and I think this is a good thing to talk about, especially for nurses who want to fly, is not to get taken advantage of companies that will use the fact that you want this job so bad to take like a lower amount or to
Mhm.
feel like it's worth the risk because there's a huge risk in flight nursing. Because I think that so many nurses, they want to fly so bad because it's like, oh, I get to fly in a helicopter and I get to have all this freedom to take care of really sick patients. And so a lot of times nurses will make a lot of sacrifices either on their schedule or their pay in order just to say that they're a flight nurse. And I think companies will take advantage of that because, well, you know what, we'll let that experienced person go because we'll have another person willing to take that seat for less money. And I think that creates a very dangerous culture of not enough experience on the aircraft. That's dangerous for patients. And it's also not fair to you as a brand new flight nurse to be in a position where you're flying with two brand new people who really, don't have the experience to make the safe decisions yet. So that's something I would just be careful of if you're a newer nurse or even paramedic looking to get into it, is that you look for a company that has a really good safety culture and a really good preceptor program that you're not going to be put in a bad situation and you're not taking a pay cut to then be in a bad situation.
Yeah. How long was your preceptorship when you became a flight nurse?
So when I started, I think I was given 10 orientation shifts. And so after 10 shifts, then I would be taken off third rider status. So I rode with a full crew, and then I would ride as the second crew member after about 10 shifts.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do the hospitals over there have unions in Arkansas?
I not that I know.
Yeah.
I know that sounds
Yeah.
terrible, but like the unions are not a huge thing at all in Arkansas, which is funny
Yeah.
because going to nursing school in New York, I was always told, make sure you get in a union, get in a union. So I got to Arkansas and I was like, okay, where are the, there was not, no unions.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
because honestly, that's why nurses in specifically, like, which is why we moved to Northern California. Like, there's nurses all over California, nurses unions all over California and New York. The reason why we moved to Northern California is because the nurses unions out here are the strongest in the nation. So they
really,
managed to secure like the highest wages of any like area, any region in the entire country. So, like, just to be completely transparent, and I've mentioned this before, like my wife, she's a per diem nurse. She works in the telemetry floor. And starting this coming year, she's going to be making $134 per hour. And
wow,
I'm currently at like 96, 98 per hour. I'm going to be at 103. And I'm not per diem. I'm a staff nurse in the ER.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's because of the nurses union.
Yeah. And we don't have that here. And I think sometimes companies really take advantage of, well, if you leave, there's another eager nurse that'll take that pay cut and take that
Yeah.
seat on that helicopter. And so yeah, it's very, very different culture.
Yeah. See, the
Absolutely.
thing here is, let me tell you, when we are negotiating a new contract at the bargaining table, if we are not getting our way, we immediately will submit a 10-day strike notice, and the nurses
Mm.
here will go on strike.
They
They
will.
do not
Yeah.
care. They
Yeah.
will. Yeah. Okay. So now, for everyone who might be interested in becoming a flight nurse, though, like, how can they reach you on social media or on your website if you have one?
So my TikTok handle is Flight Nurse Shay. I'm Flight Nurse Shay on everything, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So you can reach me there. You can send me a DM, and then on TikTok, I have my link tree there, and so that has links to the course, has links to my YouTube, has links to the blogs I've written, and so I feel like going to TikTok is probably the fastest way to get the information that you're looking for.
If you enjoyed this video, then watch this video here where I speak with a family nurse practitioner who earns over $300,000 per year from her businesses.